am so pleased to be here today to do this version of the ACC Music Makers Group. And along with me today, I'm not here by myself. I have Ted Fong to my right and his son Leland behind me. And then Matt is the sound engineer. So I'm so happy that they are here to hopefully make this a good production. My name is Patty Wood, and I will first tell you a little bit about growing up in rural Oklahoma. That was a long, long time ago. But I will also be singing some of my favorite songs, and they're all old songs. And if you know them, I want you to at least hum along or to sing along, and especially you folks at home, I want you to also be a participant in this. To begin with, I was born in a very small town of Bowlegs, Oklahoma. You heard that right, Bowlegs. And those of you who are familiar with Oklahoma know that Oklahoma, most all of the towns in the state are very small. It had a population about 300 to 400 when I was there, and I checked, and that's about what it is today. And anyway, that apparently was not always the case. A friend of mine, he was intrigued about the fact that I grew up in Bowlegs, Oklahoma, and a little bit about my father, which I will talk to you a little bit about in just a minute. But he did some research, and he found a clipping in a newspaper from a Seminole producer. That's a small town about 5 miles north of Seminole. And in 1936, and he was talking about Bowlegs. When oil was discovered, an oil-producing well was discovered in 1926 in the Bowlegs area. Well, of course, that meant that a lot of people would be coming into the town, and all sorts of people. And to support that small town of 300 to 400 mushroomed to about 15,000. I cannot imagine that being 15,000 people in the area that I knew of as that very small town. But along with all those people, of course, came dance halls, can you imagine? Brothels, hotels, there was a grocery store, there were beer halls, of course, that operated all during the night, and it raised such a din. And apparently the boarding house, they would rent the same room all kinds of times, so that everybody could have a place to sleep. Some of the bars had very picturesque names, such as the North Pole, but it was better known as the Bucket of Blood because so many knifings took place in there. But that was not when I was there. There was also the Dreamland, the Blue Front, and the White Way. Eastern papers published lurid accounts of the little town of Bowlegs, and they had said it was the toughest place in the United States. I cannot imagine, little Bowlegs. Anyway, some of the really notorious names that were linked with the town were Spanish Blackie, Wingy McDaniel, but I'm really intrigued by Big Nell, who was the bootleg queen. I tried to find out a little bit more about them so I could tell you about those, but I couldn't find anything about them. Legend has it that the town was named for Billy Bowlegs. He was a Seminole Indian chief that he, along with his family, were all massacred by another Indian in a family squabble. I guess there's always family squabbles. But anyway, there are lots of different stories about it, but that's the accepted town, the name of the town. And that bustling town of 15,000, though, is not the town that I knew when I was growing up. It was just almost all the roads were dirt roads. And I recall that there was still a big grocery store, and tucked in a corner of the grocery store was the post office. And the grocery store was owned by Mr. and Mrs. Cox, and they must have been the postmasters. Of course, I didn't realize anything about that at the time. But there was also a feed and seed store, a big one there. And at the end of town was a service station. But notably, there were 3 churches that I recall. There was a Methodist church, a Baptist church, and also a Pentecost Holiness church. There was also a beauty shop and a barber shop, and there was a city cafe. And when anybody needed to take the bus to another big town, say to Seminole or to Shawnee or someplace else, well, then they would put a flag out in front. That meant that the bus would stop. If the flag was not out there, the bus would just go right on through the town. So I don't know if it's that way or not. Most people in Oklahoma are are part Indian, and that was really mostly caused by the Indian Removal Act that moved most of the Indians from the eastern part of the United States over into what was known as Indian Territory. My father was part Cherokee, and so of course am I. And my friend who was doing the research and found out that he was a member of the Wolf Clan, so that was interesting for me. My father was a doctor in this small town. I don't know exactly when he came to Bowlegs, but he was born in the Canadian District of Indian Territory. That was before Oklahoma became a state. And my mother was also born in Indian Territory, but in the town of Wanette. And where they got together, I'm not really sure, but they did. So we had an old-fashioned drugstore in the town, one of those old-fashioned kind where you could get, if you remember, a cherry lime or a vanilla Coke or some of those good things. Unfortunately, my father died whenever I was just about 4 years old, and so that left my mom with 4 little kids, and she was just in her 30s at the time. And she was able to support us by taking in laundry and doing ironing, and she was also a seamstress. But as she would get better jobs, then we would move from town to town. We first moved to the big metropolis of Seminole, Oklahoma, that was only 5 miles north from there, and right now we would just commute. But she didn't have a car, and it was just, 5 miles each way would just be too much. So we would move to Seminole, then we moved to Shawnee, and as she got better jobs, well, then we would move. I didn't realize that we were so poor. It was really an adventure. And when I was younger, before we began our moving, we had an old piano in our house. And she could actually play the piano. In fact, she played for church. But anyway, we would gather around and sing songs. And of course, at church, we got some music. But our primary source of music was the radio. And I enjoyed very much listening to the songs on the radio, especially the harmonies of groups like the Mills Brothers. I would like to sing the song Up a Lazy River. I like lazy weather, I like lazy days. Can't be blamed for having lazy ways. Some old lazy river waves beside my door, whispering to the far off shore. Up a lazy river by the old mill run, the lazy, lazy river in the noonday sun. Linger in the shade of a kind old tree. Throw away your troubles, dream a dream with me. Up a lazy river where the robin's song awakes a bright new morning, we can loaf along. Blue skies up above, every Don't you just love those old songs? Lyrics you can understand and you don't mind your kids listening to them either. One of our last moves as a family, though, was to Oklahoma City and then on to the town of Midwest City, which was growing up along around Tinker Air Force Base, which was a big Air Force base like McClellan used to be here. Anyway, the Midwest City was a very small then, not well populated, but it's large now. My mom, we moved there because my mom got a job at Tinker Air Force Base as a civilian employee. Since we lived near the base, of course, it was inevitable that we would encounter some Air Force members from the base. I swore I would never marry anybody from the Air Force. But guess what? Lucky for me that I did. As it turned out, that was one of the best things that ever happened because we moved to, our military assignments took us all over the world. My husband had very eclectic tastes in music. His favorite was country western, but he also enjoyed classical music, if you can imagine that. One of his favorite singers was Patsy Cline, and his favorite song, one of his songs was Crazy, and that's one of my favorite songs as well, so I would like to do that for you, is to Crazy, I'm crazy for feeling so lonely. Crazy, crazy for feeling so blue. I know you'd love me as long as you wanted, and then someday you'd leave me for somebody new. Worry, why do I let myself worry? Wondering what in the world did I do? Oh, crazy for thinking that my love would hold you. I'm crazy for trying, crazy for crying, and I'm crazy for loving you. Crazy, crazy for feeling so lonely. Crazy, crazy for feeling so blue. I know you'd love me as long as you wanted, and then someday you'd leave me for somebody new. Worry, why do I let myself worry? Wondering what in the world did I do? Oh, crazy for thinking that my love could hold you. I'm crazy for trying, crazy for crying, and I'm crazy for loving you. Great, great song. Yeah, great song. Thank you. Our first assignment to a foreign country as a military family was to Japan, to Yokota Air Force Base. And that was entirely different than anything I had ever been. I had never traveled outside the United States. I had actually only been to a couple of states at that time. Tokyo, the Yokota Air Base was located about 28 miles from Tokyo, and we were able to visit there some as time went on. We traveled around as much as we could. Our oldest son was 6 months old whenever we went there. And after a couple of years, well, then we had another son. Our second son was born in Japan. I loved Japan, and it was difficult traveling around because it was a long, long time ago, and there weren't too many maps or directions to get us to where we needed to be. But anyway, I still have fond memories of Japan. Our other overseas assignments took us to Spain and to 3 different assignments in Germany. And all in all, we spent about 20 years in Europe, and that was a wonderful experience for us because having lived there and then being able to travel around, we could do lots of things on the weekends. We camped a lot. Our 2 sons actually graduated from Bitburg High School, and Randy our oldest son, keeps still in touch with what they call the Bitburg Brats. And you can't go back and do any reunions there, but they do have reunions throughout the United States at various times. And can you imagine, his high school trip, his senior trip, was to Mallorca in Spain. Can you imagine? Anyway, they also have fond memories of being in living in Europe and doing a lot of things that some people never get the opportunity to do. But I was especially sad. We met so many good friends in Spain, and as we were leaving there, I can recall as we were on the plane leaving, it said somehow the words of from the Jamaica Farewell, even though I wasn't leaving Jamaica, a couple of the words from a couple of lines from that song kept going through my mind, like, I'm sad to say I'm on my way. I won't be back for many a day. And that's really how I felt, because we had met so many good people there, and we've kept in touch with some of them. And I was able to go back. As I mentioned, I grew up in Oklahoma, and it was during the time of the discriminatory Jim Crow laws. Those of you who are not familiar with those laws, and you're lucky that you're not familiar with them, because they involved racial segregation and discrimination that were enforced by the laws and customs and practices. And actually they were in effect until the Civil Rights Acts of 1964. Outward evidence of that was everywhere that you would go. In the waiting rooms at the bus stations, at the train station, there were colored waiting rooms and white rooms. And at the water fountains, there were colored and white. You know, thinking back on that, that's so bad. But in recognition of the injustices under that law and continuing, I want to sing just the first part of what is commonly known as the Negro National Anthem. There are several really meaningful verses of that song, and I urge you to look them up, but I will just do the first couple of verses. Hope I do it justice. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound us march on till victory is won. Great song. We first came to Sacramento in 1966 after my husband retired from as being a member of the Air Force. We had never lived here, but his parents lived in San Jose by then. We wanted to be close by, and we chose Sacramento because I wanted to continue my career as a civilian employee, and at that time, some of you may remember that there were 3 active military bases right here, McClellan Air Force Base, Mather Air Force Base, and also the Sacramento Army Depot. And I worked for a short time at McClellan and before I transferred to Mather. And after a few years, my husband was also employed at Mather as a civilian employee. And we were here for until 1984, when we both accepted assignment back to where to Germany, back to the place where we had been twice before. This time, though, we were civilian employees working for the Air Force. And we were there for 7 years. And then I returned to work at Mather Air Force Base. And at that time, they were closing. So I transferred to the Corps of Engineers to their town in downtown Sacramento. And then I accepted an assignment back to Germany, but this time with the Army. But it was great. And we stayed there until the year 2000 when I retired as well, and so we came back. And the only place that we wanted to live was here in Sacramento, coming back to California. I thought if I had to go anyplace else but California, I don't know what I'd do with myself. But anyway, it's great here. And after I had been gone for so long, you know, I no longer had any network like you get whenever you come to a place of employment, and a lot of my friends that had transferred to other places when the bases closed. So I had to find some outlets to get better networking. I saw an ad in the newspaper. They were asking for volunteers to come train to be docents at the California State Capitol Museum. And so I answered that, and I'm still an active member there at the State Capitol. Also, that expanded, you know, met a lot of people there, and you know how it is, you just kind of network as you meet other people. So I began to be a volunteer for the Broadway series, the Music Circus at the Leland Stanford Mansion, and various other places. But that group also that I met there exposed me to other things like joining a book club, learning to play mahjong, which I love, absolutely. And anyway, you get the idea. But along the way, some of my friends said that they had taken ukulele lessons at the Asian Community Center, and they thought that I might enjoy that as well. Well, I did. And so I took some music lessons, and that was my first contact with the Asian Community Center, which was really a great thing that ever happened. And they also had belonged to a small ukulele group called the Strummers to help us to get a little bit better. So what did I do? I also joined the Strummers. And one of the good things about well, there were many things good about it. We would get together and sing and play songs. And ACC had, at that time, they had what they called Triple R, where caregivers would bring their loved ones there for the day so that they could have a day off. And the Strummers group would go over there on the third Friday of the month, and we would do just a short program for the attendees who were there. And we would like to have a theme. If it was March, we would like to do Irish songs and Christmas and Valentine's Day and those kinds of things. And if it was appropriate, we would have, you know, hats. Usually we get them at the dollar store, but anyway, it was great fun to go over and do that. The staff members would give the attendees little rhythm instruments like little tambourines or drums or little shakers, and they would sing along with us, and we tried to do old songs like that they may remember, so that like You Are My Sunshine and On Top of Old Smoky and those kinds of things. one of the most important things, programs that ACC has is for the caregivers. And now their program for caregiving is that someone actually goes to the home so that the person who is there gets a day of respite. And I was a caregiver also for my husband. He had COPD, or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Those of you who are familiar with that know that as time goes on, your breathing becomes so labored, and it just takes up effort for them to do anything, such as simple things like taking a shower or even getting dressed. And then also, my oldest son was suffering from liver disease, and so he came to live with me. And fortunately, 3 years ago, he was successfully had a liver transplant, and he's doing very well. So that's a good thing. But I would like to read for you something that Rosalind Carter said about caregivers. She said, "There are only 4 kinds of people in the world: those who have been caregivers, those who are currently caregivers, and those who will be caregivers, and those who will need caregivers." And that kind of sums it up for everyone, doesn't it? And for all the caregivers everywhere, I want to sing a song by John Denver, "Sunshine on My Shoulders." John Denver wrote the song on a cold, bleary day in Minnesota, and he thought he would be writing a sad song. But I'm so pleased that this is the one it is. And if you know the words, sing along with me. At least hum it as we go along. Sunshine on my shoulders makes me happy. Sunshine in my eyes can make me cry. Sunshine on the water looks so lovely. Sunshine almost always makes me high. If I had a day that I could give to you, I'd give to you a day just like today. If Thank you. As part of my branching out and hopefully to learn to get a little bit better with my ukulele playing, but you see I'm not playing today, but anyway, I'll always consider myself an advanced beginner. But I also joined a group of musicians who gathered monthly at the Chinese Christian church that was led by our Ted Fong. And it was with that group that I first sang a solo. I had never sung a solo in my life. I had always been a choir member of a church or at school, that kind of thing. But he encouraged everyone to get up in front of the group to sing a song. And some of the members of the group needed to get a little bit more confidence, they felt. And so they organized another group called the Little Ukulele Group, affectionately known as the Lugs. And anyway, eventually they invited me to join them as well. Some of our group are here today. We have Keith Turner, Deborah Dunn, and Diane Louie. And we're going to sing a song that could be our theme song, actually. It's called Sing. Sing, sing a song. Sing out loud. Sing out strong. Sing of good things, not bad. Sing of happy, not sad. Sing a song. Make it simple to last the whole life long. Don't worry, it's not good enough for anyone else to hear. Just sing. Sing a song. Now everybody. La 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 sing a song, let the world sing along. Sing of love that could be. Sing for you and for me. Oh, sing a song. Make it simple to last your whole life long. Don't worry that it's not good enough for anyone else to hear. Just sing a song. Everybody. La 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 Great, that was so good. Yeah. So we sing along and don't pay any attention if it's not good enough for anyone else to hear. I'd like to end a song, just a couple of verses of the Leonard Cohen song. And he originally had about 80 verses, but there's no way that anybody can sing all 80 verses. I will do just the first two of Hallelujah. Now I've heard there was a sacred chord that David played and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do you? It goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, and the major lift, and travel king composing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the roof, her beauty in the moonlight overthrew you. She tied you to the kitchen chair, she broke your throne and she cut your hair, and from your lips she drew the Hallelujah, 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 Hallelujah,
Good. Want to do one more song?
We want to do one more song?
An encore from Patty Wood.
Oh, well, we'll also have a song. Why don't we do When You're Smiling? Come on, everybody, and especially those of you at home, if you know the song, When You're Smiling. I want to hear you. When you're smiling, when you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. When you're laughing, oh, when you're laughing, the sun comes shining through. But when you're crying, you bring on the rain, so stop our sighing and be happy again. So when you're smiling, 'cause when we're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. Shall we do it again? Oh, when you're smiling, oh, when you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. And when you're laughing, the sun comes shining through. But when you're crying, you bring on the rain, so stop our sighing and be happy again. For when we're smiling, 'cause when we're smiling, and the whole world smiles with you. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you so much for coming, and I hope you at home enjoyed the program.